we live at 24/7, that she is missing. And it's our child. It's, she's, to some people, she may just be, a girl that's missing. To us, like, she's our world, she's our daughter, and we need to find her. We need to get her home where she belongs. This is just, it never lets up. Never. You're reminded of it constantly. Maddy is the type of girl, she's a very independent, strong, witty, smart girl. She loves her family and friends, and she loves life. She just loves doing all of her activities. She's into photography, her dirt biking, swimming, water sports. Maddy's just a great, rounded person.
Me and Maddy decided to go camping that night because there was a party and we didn't want to drive home drunk. That night was actually the first night me and Maddy went camping together.
The last time I saw Madison was Friday night. She had left the house to go on her camping trip and had forgotten some of her items, the tent poles, and she came back to the house to grab them.
When we pulled up to the lake, we unpacked the tent, but it was too small of a tent and it didn't have the poles. So then we headed back to town and got a bigger tent.
And that was about 9:30 on Friday night. It's the last time I saw Maddy. I asked why she'd come back home. She said she forgot her tent poles and she was just grabbing them, and said, have fun, be safe, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Love you. That was the last thing I said to her.
And then we headed back out and set up the tent. And then all the girls went out and got some firewood. And then we came back, and then there was more people. And we set up our tent. And then we started to drink, and more people came. And then there was some rowdy people that showed up that were not friends with the people that were there. I got super drunk, I guess, and things started to change. And more people started to show, and then I fell into the fire, and that's why I left. By the time I left, there was around 5 people left.
When we first knew something was wrong, I think it wasn't really until Sunday morning. Maddy had made a few different plans. She didn't have concrete plans that weekend. She wasn't sure what she was doing. And there were a couple of her friends that actually tried to contact her on Saturday. We had been trying as well to call her. I was just checking in. Eldon had asked if I'd heard from her, and I had tried to contact her. And the cell service out there isn't very good. And so it was actually Sunday morning was when I hadn't heard from her yet. I hadn't been able to reach her.
Dawn had gotten a hold of her friend and her friend's mother, I believe, and we just decided that we should go out to Hogsback and investigate and see what was going on.
I tried to get a hold of Jordy, and I phoned her parents' place and spoke with her mother. And her mother said that Jordy had been in since the day before, and that was when I just felt something wasn't right, that we hadn't heard from Maddy. After I got off the phone with Jordy's mom and got her number and found out that Jordy had been at work, Eldon was at work over at his shop, and I called him and told him that I had spoken with Jordy and her mother, and she hadn't been out there since Saturday. So Eldon came home, and we got into one of the vehicles, and we drove out to the campsite. When we got to the campsite, the only things that we found was Maddy's tent and her truck and her belongings. And that was it in the whole campsite. There's just Maddy's stuff.
When we arrived at Hogsback, everything was there. Other than Madison was nowhere to be found.
This is a spot over here where Maddy's truck and her tent were parked, where we found it. The last location at Hogsback that Maddy was seen. Her pickup truck was parked right in this area close to the table, and her tent was just parked over there on the other side of the table. She had a nice view of the lake, and this is exactly where we found her truck and the tent, all of her belongings, everything but Maddy. Just minutes after getting there, we looked around. We had spare keys with us, and we opened up the truck and saw all of Maddy's stuff, that it was there, everything that was there except for her keys and her phone and her. And we looked around. Eldon started doing a broader circle.
There was some other people camping nearby that my wife went and talked to, and it turned out they were friends of Maddy. That we talked to them, and they hadn't seen her, and the truck had been there the whole time from the night before. We looked around. I wandered around the trails in the immediate area looking for whatever, and didn't really see anything. So shortly thereafter, Dawn contacted the police.
RCMP.
Hi, I'm calling. My daughter is 20. We're at Hogsback, and I haven't heard from her since Friday night. And we just came out, and our pickup is here in the vehicle, and people haven't seen her at all.
Okay, what's her name?
Madison Scott.
And what's her date of birth?
April 29th, 91.
So she was last heard from on Friday?
Friday night, yes.
Okay.
All of her stuff's here, but yeah, I don't know.
Where does she live? With you?
Yes, with us in Vanderhoof.
I noticed some people up there, and I went over, and it happened to be a friend of Maddy's, and she had been there for a couple of days, I think, and I told her that we had driven out and we were looking for Maddy, and asked her if she had seen her, and she said she hadn't. And so I immediately walked back to Maddy's truck and tent and to Eldon, and I phoned the police then. So probably just shortly after getting there, within 10 or 15 minutes.
Does she have a vehicle with her?
The vehicle is here, yes. We are out at Hogsback. I talked to her Friday night, and then we just haven't heard from her yesterday, and her cell phone has been dead.
The truck has been there all the time?
The truck, yes, it has been. We're at the truck and the tent right now.
And no answer on her cell?
No answer. It's been dead, it seems, since yesterday.
What was going through my mind was just, where is she? And you just so expected any minute that she would show up. As soon as we drove out there, thought as soon as we pulled in that she would be sitting there, around the fire with her friends, and I would be asking her what she was doing, and she wasn't there. She just is nowhere to be found.
How tall is she?
Madison, she would be 5'4".
What's her weight?
170-ish.
Her hair?
Ginger colored.
Eyes?
Green eyes.
I think when Jordy left, she didn't want to leave Maddy there. She asked if Maddy would come with her, but Maddy said that she was set up in her tent and she was staying. I think Maddy thought that there was other people staying there besides her.
She was kind of no, don't leave. But she was already in bed, and I was just well, I can't, I need to go, I'm just super drunk. When I went back to Hogsback in the morning, I found the tent door open. basically, and like everything was just around in the tent, like spread it out, like push to the side, and like that was it.
I don't know what time the police met us at the lake. I believe the police came out shortly after the phone call was placed, which I think was approximately 12:30 in the afternoon.
After the police arrived, they talked to us about, they asked us where Maddy should be and what we expected, when she would have been expected home, who she was with, and stuff like that. At that time, I believe they, asked us to contact anybody, any of her friends and any of her acquaintances. So we started phoning anybody that she was associated with, as many people as we could, and anybody that came and went out of the campsite, we were talking to, and we just trying to contact anybody that might know where she was.
Madison is fun-loving, super creative, independent, funny, just amazing young girl. In class, she was always a leader. In our video projects, she would direct, edit, script everything out, storyboard, everything. And yeah, she's just very independent and fun, gracious.
Maddy is super funny. I mean, she's the funniest person I've ever met. And she always has so many activities to do. I mean, if you hang out, you'll be doing something fun.
One of my favorite memories with Madison was when she came and spent a weekend with me when my parents were out of town, and we goofed around the entire weekend and put on all my mom's old clothes and danced to Party for Two.
We used to make home movies. It was just something to do to pass the time, right? So we'd make these funny horror movies, and we had visual arts class where we would all get together in a group and make funny movies, because our movies would always be5
Maddy and I were in the same visual arts class in grade 11 and 12, and we were in the same group. There was about 5 or 6 groups in each class, and we all had a name, and we were called Shenanigan Productions, and we actually ended up winning top visual arts group in our senior year.
Maddy enjoyed school, but she's very social, and to her it was more of a social thing, and that's just the type of girl she is. She really enjoys people, and she is so incredibly intelligent and witty, and she could just write so well, and she didn't always apply herself as well at school, but she had fun, enjoyed school.
She's hard to describe. Like, she's so dynamic. Like, she's kind of the girl who'll, throw on a dress one minute, and the next thing you know, you'll see her in coveralls, changing the oil in her truck and stuff. And she's kind of always the life of the party. And I don't know, she's pretty stubborn and likes to do things her own way, but she's a lot of fun, and she's a really, really good person to be around.
Maddy had a lot of interests and hobbies. She was quite athletic. She liked playing hockey. Mostly she liked riding her dirt bike. She would ride horses with Georgia, her sister, and I from time to time. She loved camping. She loved the outdoors. Yeah, she's just very outgoing and really likes trying new things. And if she meets a friend that's into something, she's always up for up for a new adventure.
She is who she is. She doesn't try to be somebody that she's not. And if you don't like her, well, she really wouldn't care too much either way, but she doesn't try to be fake or anything. And she's like one of those friends that would give her shirt off her back to help you if you needed it.
It was a complete shock when I found out that she was missing, because she's honestly one of the last people you would ever think that would happen to.
It didn't seem like that could happen to Maddy, that no one knew where she was.
I was in disbelief. I figured since Madison kind of has spontaneous personality, she probably just went to Prince or something, and maybe she lost her phone, or who knows. I mean, I couldn't believe it at all.
When I first heard of Madison gone missing, I didn't really know what to think or what to do, but just tried to lend as much support as I could to her parents and try to find her and stuff.
The night Maddy went out to Hogsback, her and I were supposed to actually hang out that night. I was in town for a practicum for school at the hospital and was going to be heading back to Prince George soon for the summer. So we had planned all week to hang out Friday, and day before I think I started texting Maddy about it, asking what we were going to be doing, and she finally replied through texting and said, "I'm going out to my friend's birthday party tonight at Hogsback. Sorry."
What I understand of the night that Maddy disappeared is that there was a birthday party. It was posted on Facebook. A whole lot of people showed up, people that weren't really associated with that crowd at all, and they decided to leave in different groups at various times in the night. And Maddy was left behind. Nobody camped there but her. The next day, some people came back to get things that they'd missed, and they saw her tent there, but they didn't go by to shake it or get her to wake up or anything, so nobody knows that she was there.
It just didn't make any sense to me, and it didn't really clue into her being gone until the Monday morning, and then it really sunk in, and it was just horrible.
I know Maddy, and so I thought, you know what, if she's in a circumstance, she's going to be able to get out of it. She's just one of those amazing women that are capable of so much. And I was in total denial that no, she's, walked off, like something's happened. I was crying, I was really upset, but at the same time, I kind of thought, no, not Maddy. This isn't something that would happen to her ever. I would never, ever suspect that this would be something that Maddy would go through.
My gut just told me that, yes, something is very wrong. She actually has gone missing. And when I found out she had gone missing, it was from a random text from a random person, just spreading the word to everyone. But for some reason, I felt that it was very true and, something had actually happened.
A lot of people were on Facebook and we were all saying, "Maddy, where are you?" And, even weeks later saying, "Hey, Maddy, weren't we going to get together and, work on your portfolio?" Because as far as we knew, there was no sign of struggle or anything, and that it was kind of like, what happened? What went on? How is this even possible that this is happening to this girl, to this family, and this community?
I was part of an investigative team that responded to Vanderhoof, British Columbia, after Dawn Scott, Madison's mother, contacted the Vanderhoof RCMP to report that her daughter was missing. One of our investigative priorities upon arriving in Vanderhoof was to identify and interview everyone that was at the party that night with Maddy. On top of that, there was a party the next night at Hogsback Lake, and investigators also worked diligently to identify and interview those people as well.
The police have pretty much interviewed everyone and polygraphed everyone from the party, which is over 50-some people now, I believe. And so it's kind of at the point now where they believe that it's someone who wasn't actually at the party who has something to do with Maddy disappearing.
I think it's no secret that in the course of the investigation, polygraph has been used as an investigative tool. I would be doing a disservice to those people who have undertaken the polygraph examination to speak specifically to the questions. As well as we continue the investigation, we may have to use this technique further to eliminate people in respect to their involvement in Maddy's disappearance. But I can say that we have received cooperation from everyone that was at that party that night to eliminate themselves from any involvement in Maddy's disappearance.
It's been very frustrating. I don't think anybody from the party knows anything, but obviously somebody does. And they haven't come forward yet.
In the early onset of the investigation, investigators were assisted by the Chaco Valley Search and Rescue and other agencies to conduct a thorough search of the area around Hogsback Lake. The search was conducted by land, by air, by water, using RCMP resources, private searchers conducting checks of properties and areas that were reported.
The initial search, the grid search around the Hogsback Lake area was conducted under the guidance of professionals with the search and rescue. It was a bit frustrating just in the fact that you wanted to be out there all the time looking, but as the days wore on, we did understand their process, their procedure, and that it made sense for people to just go out in groups of 10 or 12 with one member of the search and rescue team that understood the procedure.
The combined search effort where search and rescue, helicopters, dogs, hundreds and hundreds of local people had come out and grid searched. And some of these areas in here have been re-grid searched 2-3 times.
We'd go out in shifts and then return back to camp. Of course, we would ribbon the area that we had been searched, and then you would wait at the camp while other teams went out and took over from where you left off, followed your ribbon lines. The search and rescue team was working on a complete map that had a grid around the lake area, and as teams came back, they would mark off that area as being searched. And that was basically how the first few days of the search went. As we know, it turned up no evidence of what had happened to Madison out at Hogsback Lake. Because there were so many people involved in the search, we realized early on that we needed to mark the areas that we felt that we had searched thoroughly and extensively. So we came up with a system prior to the ribboning that we eventually did, just quickly improvising with spray paint. We did the S for Scott, 6 for the month of June, and the 2nd being the date. So we were here on June 2nd, and then we would add the arrow to show which area we focused on.
Some of the difficulties we face when we're searching for Maddy is the really rough terrain that you have to go through. It's a very dense forest in here. It's not a lot of open area, so you're going through very, very thick bush, hurtling over a lot of deadwood. There's tons of deadwood that you go under, and you have to look under everything.
The area is just like so extensive. You know, like you look around at like Hogsback and there's, you know, like valleys and hills and creeks and stuff, and like I know like the whole parameter of the lake's been searched multiple times, and you know, and there's a network of trails and roads, and yeah, so like you could end up like 2 hours away in Quesnel and not touch a public road.
There is a vast network of roads out in this area, leading out of the Hogsback Lake area, the Bobtail, the Blackwater, the Fox, the Grizzly, and off of those roads are more roads, unmarked roads, unnamed roads, logging roads, trails that are accessible, trails that, might need a little bit of work to get into, but we just really felt that we couldn't leave any area unsearched. There's a number of people that understand these areas a lot better than we do, and they were a big help in guiding us to locations that would make sense, buildings or structures that really aren't noticeable by the road. People that were familiar with the area said it's worthwhile to look in at the cabins by Graveyard Lake. Within the first few days of the search, we'd made our way down the Blackwater Road towards Graveyard Lake, towards Bobtail Lake, searching all of the roads that lead off of the main road.
The area around Hogsback Lake and all the way out to the Bobtail and so on was settled early 20s. And yeah, there's trappers' cabins, there's sites that people have forgotten about that you just come across, and it's wow. Even from the air you can't see some of those places. They've been unused for so long. Yeah, so you just don't know what's all out there.
We've just come off of the intersection of the Blackwater and Bobtail roads. This area was of particular interest during the search because of its accessibility from the Hogsback Lake area. The Blackwater and Bobtail intersection was and is a pretty major high volume traffic area. And during the search, this was an area that the helicopter was able to spot a cabin off of the side of the road. So they were able to give us some landmarks to go off of, and then we were able to access the cabin through quads and then on foot. Of course, as we know, nothing was found at the cabin, but it was just one of the procedures that we used during the search to try to find any sort of structures that should be searched.
I first heard about Madison's disappearance just basically a couple days after she disappeared from co-workers. I was up north flying on a fire, and they phoned me and texted me and told me there was a girl missing from Vanderhoof. As soon as I came back, we got phone calls from the family and from the search parties if we were willing to help, and there was no question asked that myself and of course my company were willing to give airtime away. I mean, there was no question asked that we help, was flying whatever else needed to be done, yeah.
Early on in the first week or two, we had use of an infrared camera, and they would use it first thing in the morning when the ground was cold. And they flew around certain areas of interest with this infrared camera looking for hot spots. And then, we found other areas, remote cabins and places that we'd end up going in and searching.
We covered quite a big area. I mean, just for example, to give you a perspective, British Columbia is about the size of France and Germany together, and we only have 4.4 million people living here. And so this is a huge area, and we covered basically roughly speaking 60 square kilometers, all the way from Clucas Lake towards Fraser Lake and then down from south of Sinkit Mountain towards Fort St. James.
One of the ways that we were able to thoroughly search were aerial searches, which were conducted by ourselves. We hired residents of the community who own their own planes and helicopters, etc., were able to go up on their own time and search unbelievably large area.
Well, basically, this is a map of the central and southern part of British Columbia. Like Vancouver is down here, and we have Williams Lake here, Prince George, and then Vanderhoof, which is the geographical center of this province here. And the area that was searched basically goes from Vanderhoof north towards Fort St. James. We went all the way over to Fraser Lake. We went down to the lakes called Finger Lake and Taddock Lake, and kind of in a big circle back to Clucas Lake. And Hogsback Lake is here. And what we also did, we did follow most of the streams. They were all searched, and the specific areas, we looked at all the lakes, the shorelines, and that was the major area covered in the helicopter search for Madison. The challenge we face is that we know we're looking for persons, so it depends on what the person was wearing when she was last seen, and that's what we're looking for. Specific in our area here, the bush is very thick grown, so the challenge is to find that specific piece of clothes that we're looking for, or the color. So it's not something big that we look for, it looks for something small from the air, and that is the biggest challenge that we have.
First heard that Madison had went missing when I came home from work. My wife was at home, and she told me of the terrible news, and I immediately got my boat and went out to the lake, and just to offer some help in any way that I could.
The community support has been so amazing. We've had people doing searches on their own. Len is somebody that Maddy used to work for. He has a sporting goods store in town, and he has his own sonar, and Len was able to come out with his boat. He came out on his own time, his own initiative, and searched the lake while we were waiting for the police and search and rescue.
This type of a sonar is a side scanning sonar. It scans to the sides of the boat as opposed to directly underneath it. It creates shadows behind the objects, and by doing that it creates images of the objects. So you can get some very detailed info as to what is on the bottom. I've spent probably 10 hours on the water searching since Madison went missing.
Our relationship with the police is been pretty exceptional. They've kept us in the loop as best they can. There's obviously a lot of details that we'll never know. We've pretty open lines of communication. If anything that we hear or find out about, we contact the police right away and they'll tell us, you know, if there's any validity.
I don't believe for an instant that Maddy would run away from her family, that she wouldn't want to come home to her family. She has a family that loves her very much, and I can say that something has happened that is preventing Maddy from coming home to her family, and we're going to continue our investigation until we find out what happened to Madison Scott.
I think the RCMP have been very supportive of the community. They have been very careful to make sure that this doesn't fall off the radar screen. And as well, the residents of our community understand that the RCMP are working on it very consistently, and they still have a full contingent of investigators looking for Madison.
To have little information regarding the situation is very hard. We see her face all throughout town on the posters. Everybody I know has stickers on their cars, but it just does seem like there's just no information.
We don't have answers at this point as to what happened to Maddy, and that we currently seek any clues or information from the public and people out there to continue the investigation to find out what happened to Maddy.
The support of the community has just been incredible, and it just goes to so many different levels of resources given to this search. And one of the things to me that was just so incredible was after the initial 2 weeks, you know, to go back into work and, you know, everyday life as much as you can. You start hearing from other people that, you know, just took it upon themselves to go out onto these back roads and places that maybe we would never have even thought of, you know, to find out that people had continued on from basically the Prince George side and made their way all the way from Prince George to Hogsback down the Blackwater, you know, on their own. Other people going up towards Fort St. James, towards Fraser Lake, doing the lakes there, the logging roads there, the trails, and you know, then bringing it upon themselves to come back to the family and say, you know, just so you know, we've been out in that area. You know, we used our weekends, we used our vacation time. We've decided that this year we're not going away, we're going to stay in the area and head out into the backwoods and just continue the search. And that's, to me, is just an incredible sign of how incredibly supportive this community has been.
Hope is your way. Hope is your way. Hope is your way.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I don't think you can put into words how great the community's been. You know, especially like the first couple weeks, like the amount of people that take time off work, and there'd be days where you'd be tired, and like some days you'd want to maybe just sleep in a little bit, but people would show up at the house like, you know, 7 a.m. ready to go out and search, and it didn't end there. Like it's been, you know, 2 years later, there's still people kind of, you know, doing the same thing. Like people are always on the lookout.
Please search your mind, heart and your memory, it's in you to find the pieces that carry.
I think we're a very close community. We're a community that hurts for each other. And so when you have a small community that senses the hurt that one family member has, it's a really a troublesome time. And there's reminders every day that go along with that.
It seems when you lose one of your own, you do try and band together and help, and can't imagine that it would be your child. So it brings people closer.
It's the support that we've received. It's what's gotten us to this point, is that support, that strength, and people wanting this resolved. It's just not something that should happen.
It's pretty hard. I live in Williams Lake, which is 2.5 hours south of Vanderhoof, so I mean, we see Maddy's posters everywhere we go, but I find when I drive back to Vanderhoof, there's obviously, it's just everywhere. It's just a huge slap in the face when I drive back here.
Yeah, you can't drive through Vanderhoof without seeing her face at least once, whether it be on the windows of the stores and the restaurants, on a billboard, like the multiple versions of the reward posters, like they've evolved kind of, and like you see them on so many cars.
Our big thing is to keep the awareness of what's happened with posters. We've done media events. We have a reward we've offered, just trying to keep the awareness of what's gone on.
We are on our way to pick up the t-shirts and the poker ride posters. Hey Wayne.
Hey, how are you?
Not bad, thanks. How about you?
Good.
We need to keep the awareness out there, and one of the ways of keeping the awareness out there is we have hosted a poker ride for 2 years now because Maddy has been missing for just over 2 years. Our poker ride includes ATV riders, horseback riders, and walkers. And we based it out at Hogsback where Maddy went missing. And we had a phenomenal amount of people out in the Hogsback area looking, searching the trails for anything of Maddy. This is 400, Wayne?
500.
Oh.
That's all done.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's kind of just like what Maddy's all about, you know, like kind of being outdoors, whether it's like quadding or riding horseback or dirt bike or whatever, just being in the outdoors. And it's kind of an opportunity for people in the community to come out and kind of be on the lookout for Maddy.
Poker Ride came about as an event, just something to keep the awareness up at the first anniversary. Most of the trail was already there, but we had to make bridges and add some more stuff. So the first Poker Ride that we did, there was a lot of work making the trails.
It gets the community together and it pulls people in from the surrounding communities. I think it helps with keeping people's spirits up.
These are the station boxes that we have set up at all the different stations to be divided between the walkers, the quads, and the horse trails. The poker ride, you have a deck of cards, and we've had cards made up, all with Maddy's pictures on them. And we have a container that you draw the cards from, and we have the reward poster on there, and the Find Maddy website. We have good heavy-duty bug spray that everybody will be glad that we've had in here in the boxes, and we have sunscreen, we have garbage bags, we have pens, which we have had custom made with the findmaddy.ca website again on there. Yeah, so they're just about ready to go. We're just have a couple of people coming out now, and we'll finish up the last of the station boxes.
We must have missed the call that a darkness would fall. This town would see changing in no time at all. Somebody would take, somebody would break our liberty. We've asked you to leave, we've asked you to go, but you undoubtedly stayed. Every woman and man, every child with a mother, every sister the end of the day, we'll be winning our fight for our freedom. Take the plane, take the bus, you won't get through us. You best be heading out the highway, we're reaching for the sky. Hit the road if you care, stick around if you dare, and we'll find you. We stand big, strong and tall, all for one, one for all. The bigger your army, the harder you'll fall. Your eternal disgrace is the guilt on your face you're hiding. We've asked you to leave, we've asked you to go, but you can demand to please stay. Every woman and man, every child with a mother, every sister and brother will stand in your way. At the end of the day, we'll be winning our fight for our freedom.
The more of awareness you have, it's basically like the internet. You pass one thing on to another, and you may pass it to one person, but that goes to millions of people.
When you see the fundraising, the poker rides, the awareness campaigns that have happened in the community, they're all with one single mind, and that is to see Madison come home.
We can't just leave it rest like this. It doesn't feel safe. Everybody's heartbroken. Maddy made such an impact on so many people and continues to, and we just really need her home.
We're on day 726 today, and we're just doing what we can to keep the awareness out there, because somebody knows something. Somebody knows where she is and how she got there, and we need to find that out. We need to find her and get her home.
This tragedy has affected us in some ways, or most ways it's brought us closer together, but this has been our focus, since Maddy's been missing, is to bring her home.
I feel horrible that there's no trace of Maddy after 2 years, and I regret everything. I should have stayed, even if I was hurt.
In my day, something like this would have never happened. You always had friends that stuck together, and you knew, regardless, that you were never left alone.
If I could go back in time, I would change it all. I would stay there. Maybe I could possibly have helped her. I miss my friend.
The sadness and stress that it's caused is it's beyond belief, beyond imaginable.
I think that the most important thing that has to happen now is that individual or individuals who have information or answers as to what happened to Madison Scott need to come forward to the RCMP with that information so that we can find out what happened to Maddy.
Doesn't matter how you get the information to us, whether you email it, whether you send it to Crime Stoppers, whether you put it in the mail in an envelope anonymously. All we would like to do is get Maddy home safe with her family where she belongs.
If there's someone out there that knows what's going on with Madison, or knows somebody that does, they need to step up to the plate. And this has gone on way too long. This community has been so supportive to us. People deserve answers. We need to have Madison home.
What I would like to say to anybody who has information or is withholding anything is do the right thing and please come forward and tell us where Maddy is.
You know, it's been a few years and we still know absolutely nothing. You hear all these stories about people who have been found years later, still alive. It's just, yeah, not knowing. I mean,
in a small community like we have, you shouldn't feel fear or feel the fact that anyone could go missing.
I think that she will come home one day. There's been a lot of similar cases to this, and eventually there is a happy ending, a somewhat happy ending. And when you love somebody this much, you never give up. There's no way.
hope is just fuel for us to keep searching, to keep looking for Maddy, hoping that we'll find the answer one day.
Hope is her way home. So keeping that hope is big.